The silent cry, the Veshan research station, hung in the void like a broken promise, its silver hull scarred by plasma burns and micrometeorite impacts. For 3 cycles, it had orbited the dying star Kelith 7, studying the phenomenon of stellar collapse. Now it was collapsing too, and nobody was coming to save it. Doctor, the Sara pressed her 6-fingered hands against the observation window, watching another piece of debris spin past. Behind her, the station's command center buzzed with failing systems and the quiet desperation of scientists who had dedicated their lives to understanding the universe, only to be abandoned by it. Her species, the Veshans, were known throughout the galaxy for their brilliant minds and fragile bodies. They were researchers, philosophers, mathematicians who had never known war until the Vrask Collective decided their research was worth stealing. The communication array crackled one more time. The Sara turned to it, knowing this would be their final transmission. Her voice was steady, despite the fear coursing through her crystalline blood vessels. This is Research Station Kelith 7 to any vessels within range. We are under siege by Vrask forces. Our shields are failing. We have 47 souls aboard, all civilians, all unarmed. The Vrask demand our research or our lives. We have refused to give them weapons technology disguised as science. Please, if anyone can hear this, we are scientists, not soldiers. We never asked for this fight. The message transmitted across subspace channels, bouncing from relay to relay, spreading through the darkness like ripples in cosmic water. It reached the Galactic Union headquarters within hours. The council chamber filled with representatives from 200 worlds. And not one of them moved to help. Ambassador Quillex of the Montari hegemony was the first to speak, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic. The situation is unfortunate, but the Vrask Collective controls 17 systems. Any military action against them would destabilize the entire sector. We must think of the greater good. Around the chamber, agreement hummed through various biological and mechanical voices. Mathematics were calculated. Political costs were weighed. The conclusion was the same, as it always was when the weak faced the strong without powerful friends. The Veshans would have to face their fate alone. A motion was made to send a diplomatic protest. It passed unanimously. It meant nothing, and everyone knew it. 3,000 light-years away, in a region of space the Galactic Union considered barbaric and best left unexplored, the distress signal reached a ship that should not have been there. The horizon's edge was a human exploration vessel, battered and scarred from 2 years of deep space reconnaissance. Its captain, Helena Vance, sat in her command chair reviewing survey data when the communications officer interrupted her. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal. It's faint, bounced through at least 6 relay stations, but it's definitely a cry for help." Lieutenant Chun's fingers danced across her console, cleaning up the static. "Playing it now." Dr. the Sara's voice filled the bridge, scared but dignified, asking for help that would never come. The bridge crew fell silent. Helena leaned forward, her weathered face tight with concentration. She had spent 15 years in the Terran Space Fleet before volunteering for deep space exploration. She had seen enough of the galaxy to know how it worked. She had also seen enough of humanity to know how humans worked, and those were very different things. "Chun, how far?" Helena asked quietly. 18 light-years, Captain. At maximum burn, we could be there in 14 hours. Chun hesitated. "But Captain, we're alone out here. The nearest human fleet is 2 months away. If we respond to this, we're on our own." Helena stood, walking to the main view screen where stars stretched in every direction. Earth was so far away, it was just another pinpoint of light, indistinguishable from billions of others. But Earth had taught humanity lessons that no other species seemed to understand. When you grew up on a planet where the weather could kill you, where predators hunted you, where diseases evolved faster than your immune system, where the very ground could open up and swallow cities, you learned something essential. You learned that survival meant fighting, and fighting meant standing together against the things that wanted to destroy you. Navigation, Helena said, her voice carrying the weight of a decision that would change everything. Plot a course to those coordinates. Engineering, I want every ounce of power we can spare pushed to the engines. Weapons, start bringing our defensive systems online. Her first officer, Commander James Morrison, stepped beside her. He was younger than Helena, recruited from the Mars colonies where life was only slightly less hostile than Earth itself. Captain, regulations state we should report to Fleet Command before engaging in any rescue operations in contested space. Helena turned to face him, and her eyes held the fire that Earth had forged into every human who had ever looked at an impossible situation, and said, "Watch me, Commander. By the time we report this and wait for authorization, those people will be dead. The Galactic Union has already made their choice. They're going to let scientists die because it's politically convenient. Now I'm making my choice." She addressed the entire bridge crew, her voice rising. My grandmother was a rescue worker during the Jakarta floods. She told me that she once pulled a child from a collapsed building while aftershocks were still hitting. Someone asked her why she risked her life for one kid when hundreds were dying. You know what she said? She said because that one kid was screaming for help, and she could hear them. Because doing nothing when you can do something makes you complicit in the horror. Helena's hand came down on the command console. We're humans. We come from a planet that spent 4 billion years trying to kill us, and we're still here. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators and ourselves. We didn't do that by being the smartest or the strongest. We did it by being the species too stubborn to abandon each other when things got hard. I will not let that legacy die in the comfortable darkness of space, because some council decided that math matters more than lives. The bridge erupted with affirmations. Engines roared to life with a power that made the ship tremble. Weapon systems began their startup sequences, powering capacitors that had never been fired in anger. The horizon's edge turned toward the distant star system, accelerating to speeds that would have terrified the Veshans who built their careful, cautious research stations. All hands, this is the captain, Helena announced shipwide. We're responding to a distress call. We're going into a hostile situation against an unknown enemy with no backup and no guarantees. Anyone who wants to object can file it with my personal log, and I'll read it if we survive. But understand this. We're not just saving 47 Neshan scientists today. We're telling the galaxy that humanity remembers what it means to hear someone scream and actually give a damn. The horizon's edge jumped to faster-than-light travel, and space folded around it like paper. Behind them, Earth was a distant memory. Ahead of them, death waited with patient certainty. But between those 2 points was something the galaxy had forgotten existed, something that Earth had beaten into human DNA over millions of years of surviving the unsurvivable. It was the simple, fierce, unreasonable refusal to let the monsters win. 14 hours later, the horizon's edge dropped out of FTL space at the edge of the Keleth 7 system, and Captain Helena Vance saw exactly what they were up against. 6 Vrask warships surrounded the research station like sharks circling wounded prey. The Vrask were raiders and slavers, species who had abandoned morality for profit. Their ships were ugly, brutal things, built for intimidation and overwhelming firepower. On the research station, Dr. Thesara's hands trembled as new sensor readings flooded her screens. The shields were at 2%. They had minutes at best. Then her sensor officer made a sound she had never heard before, something between hope and disbelief. "Doctor, there's a new contact. Single ship, emerging from FTL. It's transmitting an identification beacon." It's human. The Sara felt her heart stutter. Humans, the Deathworlders. The species the Galactic Union whispered about in worried tones. The ones who had clawed their way off a planet had killed 99% of all species that had ever lived there. They had come. One ship against 6 across 3,000 light years of empty space because someone had called for help. Helena Vance stood on her bridge and opened a channel that would broadcast to every ship in the system. Her voice was calm, but beneath it ran a current of something ancient and terrible. Something that came from a world where apex predators learned to fear the clever apes with opposable thumbs and unbreakable spirits. This is Captain Helena Vance of the Terran vessel. Horizon's Edge to Vrask ships. You are attacking unarmed civilians. You have 30 seconds to withdraw, or you will discover why Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Your choice. Choose wisely. The Vrask commander's laughter echoed across the channel. One human ship against 6 Vrask warships? You're either insane or suicidal. We are Vrask. We do not flee. Helena smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. It was the smile of a species that had stared into the abyss for millions of years and made the abyss blink first. Then let me teach you the first rule of picking fights with Deathworlders, she said softly. We're not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with us. The Horizon's Edge charged forward, and the Vishan scientists watched in awe and terror as one human ship dove into an impossible battle. The chaos was just beginning, and the galaxy was about to remember why you never, ever corner something from Earth. When Earth remembers the Vrask commander, war leader Zarak, watched the human ship accelerate toward his fleet with what he assumed was suicidal bravado. His mandibles clicked in amusement as his tactical officer displayed the comparison data. 1 exploration vessel against 6 military warships. The mathematics were absurd. Humans, he had heard, were supposed to be clever. This was just stupidity. All ships maintain formation around the station, Zarak ordered, his voice resonating through the bridge. Let the humans come to us. When they're close enough, we'll tear them apart and add their wreckage to our collection. Perhaps their bodies will fetch a good price on the slave markets. His crew chittered with anticipation. The Vrask had ruled through fear and overwhelming numbers for 3 generations. They had learned that most species would rather surrender than fight. Those who fought usually did so with carefully calculated tactics, following the standard doctrines taught in every military academy across civilized space. Zarak expected the human ship to realize its mistake, attempt some desperate maneuver, and either flee or beg for mercy. What happened instead would be discussed in military colleges for the next century. The Horizon's Edge did not slow down. It did not attempt evasive maneuvers. Instead, it did something that violated every principle of space combat tactics. It accelerated directly toward the largest gap between 2 Vrask destroyers, pushing its engines beyond safe operational limits. On the human bridge, warning alarms screamed as the ship's frame groaned under the stress. Captain, we're at 130% engine capacity, the engineering officer shouted over the noise. We can't maintain this for more than 2 minutes before we start tearing ourselves apart. Helena's eyes never left the tactical display. We won't need 2 minutes. Weapons, the moment we cross their formation, I want firing solutions on all 6 ships simultaneously. Target their sensor arrays first. Make them blind. 6 targets at once? The weapons officer, Lieutenant Pack, looked up in shock. Captain, our targeting computer isn't designed for that many simultaneous locks. Then do it manually, Helena snapped. You're human. Your ancestors tracked migrating herds across savannas while watching for predators in 3 directions. Your brain can process more targets than any computer. Trust your instincts. The Horizon's Edge hit the gap between. The two Vrask destroyers, going so fast that the enemy ships barely had time to register the maneuver before the human vessel was through their formation and inside their defensive perimeter. In that split second, Lieutenant Pack did something that would become legendary. He locked onto all 6 Vrask ships manually, his fingers dancing across the fire control systems with the kind of hand-eye coordination that only came from a species that had spent millions of years throwing rocks at prey that didn't want to be dinner. The Horizon's Edge fired everything. Missiles streaked in 6 different directions. Railgun slugs accelerated to incredible velocities, hammered into sensor arrays. Point defense lasers carved through communications dishes. In 3 seconds of coordinated fire, Helena's ship turned 6 Vrask warships into blind, deaf vessels frantically trying to understand what had just happened. On the Blood Reaper, Zarak's bridge plunged into chaos. Every screen went dark. Communications dissolved into static. His tactical officer was shouting damage reports, but without sensors, they might as well have been floating in a box. Impossible. Zarak roared. One ship cannot disable an entire fleet. Restore sensors now. But the Horizon's Edge wasn't finished. Helena had studied the reports about the Vrask, read every intelligence brief humanity had on these raiders. She knew they relied on pack tactics, on overwhelming firepower coordinated through centralized command. Take away their ability to see and communicate, and they became confused predators snapping at shadows. Morrison, broadcasting on all Vrask frequencies, Helena ordered. Let's talk to them. Her voice cut through the static on every Vrask ship, calm and cold as the void itself. Vrask fleet, you wanted to know about Deathworlders? Let me educate you. On Earth, we have a saying about cornered animals. They fight with everything they have because they have nothing left to lose. But humans aren't cornered animals. We're the things that cornered animals have nightmares about. She paused, letting that sink in while her ship maneuvered behind one of the disabled destroyers. Your sensors are gone. Your communications are scrambled. Right now, you can't see where I am or what I'm doing. You're alone in the dark with something that evolved in darkness deeper than you can imagine. Do you know what lived in Earth's oceans before we conquered them? Things with teeth as long as your arm that could sense a single drop of blood from kilometers away. We killed them. We killed everything on our world that was bigger, stronger, and meaner than us. And we did it with nothing but our brains and our refusal to quit. The Horizon's Edge fired again. This time, a single railgun round that punched through the rear destroyer's engine core. The Vrask ship went dark, power failing, drifting helplessly. That's one down, Helena continued, her voice never rising, never showing emotion. It was the tone of someone explaining basic mathematics to a slow student. 5 more to go. You can try to restore your systems. You can try to run. You can even try to fight back blind. But understand this. Every second you stay in this system, I'm hunting you. And on Earth, humans were never the fastest or the strongest. We were just the best at persistence hunting. We would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We're very, very patient when we're angry. On the research station, Dr. Thasara and her team watched their sensors in stunned silence. The human ship was moving through the Vrask formation like a ghost, striking and vanishing, always staying where the disabled ships couldn't coordinate fire, even if they could see. It wasn't the brutal frontal assault the Galactic Union fleets would have attempted. It was something far more terrifying. It was methodical, strategic, the kind of hunting that came from a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history being both predator and prey. Zarak finally managed to get his short-range sensors back online just in time to see the human ship destroy a second Vrask cruiser. His blood ran cold as he realized the truth. The human captain wasn't trying to defeat them in glorious combat. She was teaching them a lesson. She was showing them what it felt like to be the prey. All ships, emergency scatter pattern. Zarak ordered, his voice cracking with something he had never felt before in combat. Fear. Get out of this system. Retreat now. But the horizon's edge had positioned itself perfectly. As the Vrask ships tried to scatter, they found the human vessel blocking their escape vectors, forcing them to choose between collision courses or staying to fight. 3 ships chose to fight. Helena disabled 2 more within minutes, targeting their engines with surgical precision. The 3rd managed to restore its main weapons and fired a desperate barrage at the human ship. The horizon's edge took the hits. Hull plating buckled. Systems overloaded. On the bridge, sparks rained from damaged consoles and the lights flickered. Commander Morrison pulled himself up from where the impact had thrown him, blood running from a cut on his forehead. Damage report. Helena called out, gripping her command chair. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5. Shields at 20%. But we're still flying, Captain, engineering responded. Helena smiled grimly. Shields at 20%? On Earth, we call that winning. Weapons return fire. Show them the difference between taking a hit and going down. The horizon's edge's remaining weapons spoke, and the Vrask ship that had scored the hits found itself torn apart by a concentrated assault that came from a species that had learned warfare from a planet that never stopped trying to kill them. The humans didn't just survive damage. They got angry about it. The remaining 2 Vrask ships, including Zarak's flagship, finally broke and ran. Their faster-than-light drives engaged in uncoordinated jumps, fleeing in different directions like animals scattering from a forest fire. Helena let them go. She had made her point. Open a channel to the research station, she ordered quietly. Dr. Thesara's face appeared on the screen, her large eyes shimmering with tears. Her species didn't cry the way humans did, but the emotion was universal. Captain Vance, Thesara whispered. You came. You were alone. You were outgunned. You came anyway. Helena's expression softened. Doctor, where I come from, we have an old saying. It doesn't matter how big the monster is. What matters is whether you're willing to fight it. You called for help. We heard you. That's all that matters. But why? Thesara asked. Your species doesn't even know mine. We have no treaties, no trade agreements. You risked everything for strangers. Helena was quiet for a moment, thinking about Earth, about a blue-green world where kindness was an evolutionary advantage, where cooperation meant survival, where the strongest groups were the ones who protected their weakest members. Because that's what humans do, she said simply. We're from a death world, Doctor. A planet that tried to kill us with ice ages and volcanic eruptions, with predators and plagues, and 1,000 other nightmares. We survived because we're stubborn and mean and too dumb to quit. But we also survived because we learned to help each other. Because we figured out that the scariest thing in the universe isn't death. It's becoming the kind of creature that hears someone crying for help and does nothing. She stood, addressing both the Veshin station and her own crew. We're going to escort you to the nearest safe port. We're going to make sure you get home. And then I'm going to file a report with the Galactic Union, explaining exactly what I think of their mathematics that says 47 lives aren't worth saving. The evacuation began immediately. Human crew members worked alongside Veshin scientists, transferring essential research and personnel to the horizon's edge. The research station, mortally wounded, would have to be abandoned. But everyone would survive. Everyone would go home. 3 weeks later, Captain Helena Vance stood in front of the Galactic Union Council. They had summoned her to explain her unauthorized military action and violation of diplomatic protocols. She listened to their lectures and their concerns and their careful political language that meant they were angry. She had made them look bad. When they finished, she spoke into the silence. "You're right. I violated protocols. I acted without authorization. I risked my ship and crew against overwhelming odds. And I would do it again tomorrow without hesitation. Because while you were debating and calculating, 47 souls were about to die. And the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to debate protocol while children scream." She leaned forward, and every representative in that chamber saw something in her eyes that made them deeply uncomfortable. It was the look of a species that had survived everything the universe threw at them and come out harder. "Humanity is offering the galaxy a new protocol," Helena said quietly. "It's very simple. You hurt the innocent, you answer to us. You prey on the weak, we become your nightmare. You think you're predators? You've never met real predators. Earth made us, and Earth doesn't make anything soft." The council erupted in protests and arguments. But in the end, they could do nothing. Because across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, people had heard what one human ship had done. They had heard that when everyone else calculated the cost of doing the right thing and decided it was too expensive, humans did the math differently. Dr. Thisara returned to her homeworld and told her story. Other species whispered it in their languages. The tale spread like wildfire through a universe that had forgotten what courage looked like. And slowly, carefully, the weak and the hunted began to hope that maybe, just maybe, the age of mathematics and political convenience was ending. The humans had heard them scream. And the humans had come. That changed everything. Asterisk